There he is. Yeah,
Hi,
there we go.
Danny.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine. Thanks a lot for joining. There was a
So is it,
confusion regarding the time frame.
yeah, is it Marcelo or Marcello?
Marcelo.
Marcelo, okay. I'm making sure. Marcello would be Italian, I think.
Yeah. Man, you're about to come back to Brazil. 3 shows in 2 cities, one of them a sold-out date in São Paulo. How do you feel about this?
Well, of course, I'm really happy. I mean, I think the last time we were there, I can't remember if it was 2008 or 2009, maybe
2009,
2000.
I think.
Yeah. And of course, that was just the one show in Rio. And it was a great show. We loved doing it, but there was just all kinds of craziness attached to that. So hopefully this one will have a better flow to it. And of course, my main hope is that we can drum up enough interest that it's possible to bring the whole band over next time. So we'll see what happens.
This shows will play Tyketto's Don't Come Easy in its entirety. It's perhaps the second album I've listened the most in my entire life.
Oh, really?
Uh,
Okay. So you won't
uh,
be, but you won't be too bored to hear it again.
Definitely no.
Okay,
Uh,
good.
do you think it's correct to say that it's the most important or iconic album of your career?
Yeah, most important one probably. Although it depends on how you're looking at it, because I mean, the Wasted album that I did is the start of my career, so that's pretty important too. That's the one that kind of put me on the world stage.
And what does Duncamism mean to you? How do you see the impact of the album it still has even 32 years after its release?
Well, I've over 33 years now, 30, yeah, so 32 years. I've had a different relationship with it depending on when you ask me. There were times definitely in my life where I was like, I just don't want to hear those songs anymore, and you're putting out new albums and new stuff, and people are like, that's great, you have a new album. Play Forever Young. Like, you know. And I realized with the help of some friends that that's a very bad attitude to take, because you don't reckon how important an album can be for some people, or a song. And I understand it from my perspective. Like, I know how much Bad Company songs mean to me, or how much Led Zeppelin or Doobie Brothers mean to me. It's really hard to understand that it's possible that my music means the same to somebody else. So it takes time to get used to that. Now, when I realize that, then I can play Forever Young every day, because it means something to people. Or Standing Alone, probably more than anything else, Standing Alone is a song that I still continue to get messages from people. I just want to tell you how much this song meant to my life, and all that. So that's a very big deal for a songwriter. It's very important.
Do you feel that the fact that Duncamism is so reverent ends up kind of overshadowing your work after it?
Sometimes, yeah, it's difficult. I personally think Reach is the best Tyketto album we've done. But once you've established that block, any band that's had a great first album, they can't fight against it. It's interesting, because you take a band like, let's say, Aerosmith. If you go all the way back when I was a kid and the first album came out, it's a brilliant album, that first album. But the next album got a little better, and then Toys in the Attic was amazing, and then Rocks came out. It was the best thing any of us had ever heard. So they didn't start out with their best piece, so to speak. Not sure how they would feel about that. But they're, in other words, they're not always having to compare. And I think a little bit of that is a blessing. Mr. Big is the same way. It was their second album that was the one that went boom. It's all of a sudden, and then they just did so many great albums after that. So it's a little hard when you're making more music all the time, new music working, and you get, yeah, I like it. It's not Don't Come Easy though. It's not going to be. We did that once. We're not going to try and do it again. It makes no sense.
That said, which album or albums after Don Camisi do you think could have gotten more prominence or boasted a greater status than they do?
Really, most of them. Strength in Numbers, I think, was just as powerful an album. And strangely enough, I think Strength in Numbers in some parts of Europe was more popular than Don Camisi. It was in Japan as well. And I love that album because the difference between the two records is that Don Camisi, we wrote that record, we had a plan, and the plan was we wanted to write as many what we thought of as arena anthem songs. That chorus comes in, and the wings to fly, whoa,
Flares up.
Hands up, and Burn It Down Inside had that, Seasons had that, Lay Your Body Down had a big chorus. It was all like, come on, big, big, big. And Strength in Numbers, we branched out. There was a little bit, some like Inherit the Wind got heavy, and Why Do You Cry was blues. And we wanted to show that we were not only versatile musicians, but that we could write a variety of styles of music, and so, yeah, I mean, I think it's just as strong an album. It's just, it's different in the way it was composed.
4 years ago, Tyketto hit the road playing Strength in Numbers in its entirety. Tell me how it was to rediscover the album after so long.
Well, it's kind of the same thing of what I'm going to go through now, is that I go back and I realize that over 30 years, I've developed some bad habits. I've changed a few things, and so I have to kind of go back and settle into, so it's particularly for the Brazil shows, make sure that we do it primarily originally. Certain songs that I don't play very often, Strip Me Down, Walk on Fire, we don't play as often. So I kind of have to relearn them, and make sure I'm battle ready.
Is it difficult for a singer who has established himself in groups to find acceptance on his solo material? I mean, from your experience, being part of Wasted and Tyketto made things easier or tougher?
Well, it made things easier in that there were more people that knew who I was. But I've been very lucky. I mean, it seems that my fans are very supportive of my changing directions as often as I do. The last solo album I released, Myths, Legends, and Lies, was so weird as far as the musical styles. It was all over the place, and very little of it was rock and roll. And it was all songs that I have written over a period of almost sometimes 40 years that they had no home. They didn't go with Tyketto. They didn't sound right with From the Inside. They didn't work with Flesh and Blood. I was like, what am I going to do with these songs? And then eventually there were enough of them to put them all under one album. And my fans have really supported it. I mean, it was a fan-based project. They paid for it. And I can certainly do another album like that. I have enough songs to do another one. So that's kind of on my list of things to do, is to try another one of those.
The fact that you were the only member of the original lineup of Tyketto proves that the name has a lot of power. For you, what's the importance of keeping Tyketto's name still active?
Well, when Michael and then Chris Green both said they wanted to retire, I said, okay, we'll stop. Tyketto should stop. Especially Tyketto without Michael. And they both said I was crazy. They said, people want to hear these songs, and as long as you're singing them, I think it's really more because they pushed me and said, no, don't stop, Tyketto, keep going. So let's see what happens. So when we got the new guys and we went on tour in the UK, I had no idea if the fans would go, and just not be so excited. It was the opposite. They really supported it. And, there were people who said, gosh, I miss Michael, but I love this. It's still, as long, here's the thing with Tyketto is that our mission was always to be the very, very best live band we could be, as long as we could always deliver for the fans and never just go through the motions. Here you go, Forever Young, how you doing? Rock and roll. As long as we meant it and it felt strong, that we keep doing it. So now I know that we can, because all the guys that are with me now are very much the same. You know, they want to give the audience the best that they have.
Don Henley of Eagles said that the songs come first, not the singers or the players. Does that apply to Tyketto, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and which is great. It means this, you know, again, that the songs have stood the test of time for all these years. So that's again something that we can be very proud of.
I read Pete Way's biography, and his drinking stories took an almost legendary dimension. How would you describe working with him and your time as the lead singer of Wasted?
Well, the first thing you need to know about Pete is that his memory is not very good. I'm reading it going, that's not what happened. He had the wrong band members in the wrong place. But, you know, a couple of people came to me and said, you know, you only get like 1 line, 2 lines in the whole book. And I said, yeah, Pete never really wanted me in the band. The record company said, if we keep Wasted, we need to, because remember, this was 1985 when I first started talking to them. At that point, you know, Journey was enormous. Night Ranger was out. We had all these amazing, very clear voiced singers. Jeff Tate, you know, Queensryche was out. Bon Jovi was out. And so the record company said, we can't do much with what you have, which is a shame, because I think Finn is a brilliant singer. I love those Wasted albums. But they said, if you want to stay with us, then you got to go a little more mainstream. Heaven Tonight is a great song, but it needs a more modern singer. So that's why they got me. Paul loved the idea. Paul and I had worked together before, but I don't think Pete ever liked it. And what he said about me in the biography is kind of fair. Like, when you come into a situation like that and you immediately know you're not really welcome, it's really hard to stay happy, you know?
Yeah. There's a project of yours that I'm a big fan of, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about, which is Flesh and Blood, the Blues for Days record. Is there a possibility of a new collaboration with the guys?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, Al Petrelli, he works so hard, you could never get him into the studio. I only speak to Mark Mangold once every couple of years, and you know, we did the re-release with the new song, 2 new songs. But then he disappears into the sky, and I don't hear from him again. So.
And what's the story behind the album Snake Oil and Harmony?
Well, that's another one where I replaced another singer. It's very strange how this keeps happening. I had left Tyketto and I was out of the music business. I'd had enough. I didn't want to do it anymore. But I had met Mark on another project about a year ago. And he called me out of nowhere and he said, look, he said, I've got this finished album. So it's all done, finished recording, everything. And I took it to the record company and they don't like the singer. He said, how would you feel about just coming in and just singing the songs your way? So it was a good project for me because I wasn't in charge, which was nice. I got to just sit back and do what I felt and follow the lead. And I didn't have to write anything, because at that point, my mind was a mess. There was so much that, you know, leaving Tyketto was hard. There were problems at home. So, and I listened to the songs, like, I love these songs, you know, they had nothing to do with me. They wrote them. And that made it easy. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm an enormous Paul Rodgers Bad Company fan. So to do that kind of blues rock record was just so much fun. And I can't remember, we did 13 songs in, I don't know, I want to say like 5 days. And I came in, I remember coming in on like the 4th day, and I was like, oh, Mark, I said, I think we have to take a rest today. And he's like, no, I love that. Get in there, sing like that. And so I think that's what we did. Mr. Blue was that one. Just really hurting, but it came out great. And it's nice because it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm singing on it. It's an album I can just listen to and enjoy.
In 2009, the original Tyketto lineup performs in Brazil with House of Lords and White Lion. I've already interviewed Jimmy Bell, Mike Tramp, Evan Brooke, and everyone said that the night wasn't the best. Why?
True.
What happened?
There were a couple of problems with that one. Brooke was not in the best of health at the time. He was having health problems. So he did his best, but there were, again, health, personal issues. It was very distracting. We got very, very stressed out because when we were trying to get to the club, I mean, I had never seen Rio before, and Rio at night is a madhouse because everyone was out in the streets, everyone partying. The cars couldn't move. We sat in our car for hours, and all we had to do was go like 2 miles, less than that. And you look at the police, and they just go, like nobody moves people out of the way, nothing. So by the time we got there, everybody was pretty shaken up by the whole thing. And the almost all the people who worked on the back line at the club and everything, they were stoned out of their fucking minds, all of them. There was so much ganja, just like there were clouds on stage. And it was like, I don't have any guitar. And then like he'd start to move. He'd be like, come on, give me some guitar. So it was a little difficult.
Despite the setbacks, is there any special moment or memory of your visit to Brazil that you'd like to share with me?
Oh man, there were many. We went up to is it Sugarloaf? It's called at the top.
Sure.
Yeah, we went up on the cable cars to that. We were in the beaches. Honestly, I've never seen that many beautiful women in one place in my life, ever. It's Rio. You're just walking around, girls like handing out like little leaflets on the street. They're like supermodels. It's crazy. But it's my impression of Rio is that it was this very beautiful and very dangerous place, both at the same time. Always you have to. I always tell people, if you ever go, make sure you have someone there who's from there to take you around, because there's places you don't want to go by accident.
It's
even
worse today.
Oh, that's a shame.
That's why I moved to the mountains.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
During the pandemic, you were one of the many artists that turned to live streams to connect with fans. Could you talk a little bit about your experience with the YouTube lives?
It was a very strange experience. It is something I had to do. It didn't have anything to do with, trying to please people or make sure people don't forget me or all that. First of all, in Spain, we had to stay in our house for 47 days. Nobody was allowed out. So you'd look out your window and it would look like a science fiction movie. No humans anywhere, So you got kind of crazy. And I just, I'd play guitar and I'd sit there. There's not much to do. And I started thinking I needed to perform somehow. So I'd seen a couple of other artists had done, it was like 15, 20 minutes. And I was like, and I said, no, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right, And so we put together, sometimes those shows are more than 2 hours. And it's because I didn't want to stop.
And I watched most of them.
Yeah. It's very strange when it's just your wife going, and you can't see or hear anyone.
But she's your biggest fan.
Yeah, well, for sure. But I'm still amazed at the amount of people all over the world who said, thank you so much. That helped us. We We look forward to Thursdays so much because that was coming and all that. That really means a lot. You know, I mean, people could have just not watched, but they really did. Even if not live, you know, they were always able to go back and watch later.
With the resumption of live shows after the pandemic, how do you feel about getting back to performing for an actual public?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, we weren't sure how it was going to go, but I feel stronger than ever. Um, you know, we did 5 weeks. We started with the Monsters of Rock cruise, which were the last two shows for Michael and Chris. And then we went straight on to the new guys and did 12 shows in the UK with FM and Dare. And then we went to Europe and did 6 more shows on our own with Wild Heart. And now that we're more available and can play more often, it's opened up a lot of doors. There are more offers coming in. We're talking to different people about different things for next year. And we've still got some shows in the UK at the end of the year to do. So it seems like there's just much more possibilities now, and we feel very strong live. So we'll keep doing it.
But do you feel that touring is different from what it used to be before the pandemic?
Yeah. Right now, for instance, I'm not comfortable doing meet and greets afterwards. It's a disappointment because I love to meet people. But you always have to think about tomorrow's show and the show after that. So, you know, with FM and Dare, we didn't do any meet and greets because, you know, first of all, we're all older guys. We don't want to get sick, and we had weeks of shows to do. So, for now, that's how it's going to be. And you know, this is here to stay. So we have to still respect it, even though it's becoming less and less of a threat.
From a financial point of view, is it more costly to hit the road today than it was before?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the airlines, you know, they're assholes, all of them. I'll give you an example. When we were booked to do the Monsters of Rock Cruise 2020, and of course there was no Monster of Rock Cruise 2020. So United Airlines said, it's okay. Here's your voucher. You know, we paid, like, let's say for Spain to go to Miami, I think it was $900 round trip. So we got your voucher. It's good for $900. Whenever we get back in business, you can use it again. Fantastic. I thought that was great. So when it came time for this last cruise, like, okay, United, I'm going to book my flight. Well, guess what? The flight's now $1,400. So now I had to pay $500 more on top of the voucher. And I was like, you know, they're killing us out there. In Europe, it's really bad because of Brexit. Brexit has really fucked things up for bands trying to go between Europe and the UK. It's twice as much. There's all this paperwork basically that you're paying for that wasn't there before. It's really bad. Petrol is more expensive everywhere. Hotels have become more expensive. It's got to settle down, you know, because a lot of tours stopped halfway through because they lost so much money.
2 weeks ago, I interviewed Mitch Malloy, and he said that the secret to keeping his voice in shape is eating well and singing regularly. Do you agree?
Pretty good. Yeah. I would say, you know, whatever your choice would be, but keeping your exercise going. When I initially during the pandemic, during lockdown, I tried to keep exercising at home, you know, and do different things. But after like the first 6 months to a year, you just like, you know, can't bother. So when it came time to go on tour again, I suddenly realized, like, you know, I can't breathe. So it was back in the gym in January and going for it. And I've noticed that since then, I feel much better, much stronger. I have more energy. And I think that's really important because, you know, the on stage, the hour and a half, when that happens, I feel like I'm 25, you know, but traveling and the bullshit and everything in between, then it feels like, oh God, you know, so you have to be fit for that too. And if you can eat right, and yeah, I agree with Mitch, keep playing for sure. Don't stop.
You are a vegan, right?
Mostly. I've changed that a little bit. I'm eating fish again now. I know Rodrigo was very upset when he found out I don't eat meat anymore. It's like, you're coming to Brazil, you have to eat meat. Like, nah, sorry.
Well, what
No
led
more,
you
no
to
more
make
Tabasco for me.
what led you to make that choice?
I believe in it nutritionally. I think it's. I mean, for me, I don't tell other people what to do. But the more I learned about the science of it, the more I feel like red meat is dangerous for us, particularly red meat. You know, chicken not as much, um, but it has a lot to do with various proteins. In America, in particular, red meat, all red meat is full of growth hormones, vitamin additives, and you name it. They're injecting these cows with antibiotics, all this shit you don't want to have in your system. Um, so here's a good. I'll just give you a quick one. Both the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, and the whole National Health Service of England, like 5-6 years ago, proclaimed red meat as a class 1 carcinogen. Right? You know what else is a class 1 carcinogen? Plutonium. So it's
That's
kind
big
of
volume, man.
dangerous.
But does that affect your life as a touring musician? I mean, are there any specific challenges you face with sticking to a vegan diet while traveling?
Yeah, it's almost impossible. It's very, very hard. Um, it's for me. I think not eating dairy helped a lot because I think it keeps my throat clear and I sing better without it. But try going somewhere in Spain without butter and eggs and things like that. It's really hard. There are places in Spain, I swear to you, where you ask for a vegetarian salad and it will have chicken in it. They think chicken is a vegetable. So
we are now heading for the last three questions. Of all the achievements you've made throughout your career, what was the biggest and most important in your opinion?
I think the most important is still being here. It's not a. I don't have any statues or awards or anything like that, but I've been doing this professionally since the early 80s, and the fact that people still want to hear me sing and still want to see what I do, and support that's just an amazing blessing to me.
What was the most valuable lesson you learned over the years?
I think that's a tough one. I think it is that you have to do what you believe is right. You talk to any musician who's had a record deal, and they will tell you at least one story about something in their career where they just went, "Oh, I wish I hadn't done that, but the record company forced me, or the manager said this was a good idea, or whatever." And so you have this feeling of, I got to live with this decision, whether it's a shitty album cover or a song you didn't want to do or a bad interview or whatever it might be. There's a million things. Um, Particularly now, if anybody's trying to get into this business, you got to stick with what makes you the happiest and what you believe in. It doesn't matter what kind of style it is, go do it, because fashion changes like that. One day people love Iron Maiden, the next day they love Jesse J. Okay, it's and you got to live with that. So as long as you're making the music that excites you and comes from your heart, I think you have at least that going for you, and you'll find the people that want to hear it.
What do you still hope to achieve as a musician?
Keep paying my bills. I don't think I have a particular goal in mind. I want to keep making music, learning more about music. You never stop learning, never. So during the pandemic, I started composing music for television, and this is so much fun because I can try anything now. I can try blues, I can try jazz, I can do classical, movie stuff, and just try it. And it's, oh, that's a good sound. What is that? And bring it in, and just it's like playing, and that's what it should be.
Danny, thank you so much. I'm without words, really. You know my story. You know how much I love your music, how much
Oh, thank you.
how much your whole career is important to me. And I hope to meet you soon in São Paulo. I won't make it to the signing in Animal Records because it's a 9 hour bus trip from my city to São Paulo.
Wow.
And well, I hope I can meet you maybe at the hotel or maybe before the show. I'll be there on Saturday.
Do you know the promoter, Rodrigo?
Yeah, Rodrigo, Felipe, everybody.
Yeah. Talk to them, tell them that we talked, and we'll arrange it where we can meet up at a hotel somewhere or something before
Yeah.
the shows, or whichever one. Are you coming to the first one or the second one?
I'm coming to the first, but I'll try to stay for the seconds.
We'll try and change the songs up a little bit, but so yeah, then either one, because of course we'll have time because we'll be
Yeah.
nice and relaxed. So yeah, tell them that we talked, and I definitely, we'll meet up. It'll be fun.
Send my best wishes to Melissa. She's amazing.
I will. Thank you. Yeah, she always talks about you.
Well, see you in a few days. In
Yeah,
2 weeks.
soon.
In 2 weeks, real
It's a
soon.
long flight. Yeah.
One last request, would you please maybe put horns up or something for the print screen?
For what?
For the print screen.
Oh, just that? With the glasses?
The way you choose, man. Thank you so much, Danny. Bye bye.
Take
Have a
care,
great
Marcelo.
night.
I'll see you soon.